I don't know, like, she's out there. You're the Florida version of Sex in the City, JD.
That's when I was smoking my cigar.
Don't be an asshole today.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just waiting for my co-host to boot up. There she is.
All right. I was having a problem with my connection. Hi.
Hello. And that's okay. That's very common with Zoom.
It's
Yes.
ridiculous, honestly. I got like some weird lighting thing going on up here. Okay. Anyways, hello everybody. Anthony,
Hi.
are you in Canada?
I am. I'm on the West Coast in Vancouver, BC.
Oh my goodness. How is it super cold?
Normally, I would say it's not, but last night it poured snow and it's continuing to pour snow right now. So I think we're at 0 degrees Celsius. So 32 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's I'm at 28 in London.
Oh, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
cold one.
Jay, 80?
We're at 80 here in Florida.
Jealous.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the cold weather.
JD, I read that you guys are going to be at 45 on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, you're
Oh,
going to get a little cool front. I know. My mom's doing a tap dance in her wheelchair, but still,
does she like it or she doesn't like it?
she likes it when it's cold. Yeah,
Oh, good,
yeah,
good.
she's got a lot more energy. So Anthony, I found you on Threads. I
Nice.
was like, look at his adorable little face. I need to stalk him a little bit. No,
Oh, God.
I love following queer authors. Like that's just I love, when we can get stuff out there. And so I saw your upcoming book is
Yes.
called Skater Boy, right?
It is. Yes. 20
Yeah. I
days.
love it. I love that cover.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. So is it based on Avril Lavigne's 2002 song?
Well, legally, I'll say it's loosely inspired by Avril
So
Lavigne's
just
Skater
that's
Boy
yeah,
song.
right. Okay. Because I'm like, in Canada, that song was like really popular for a while.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's funny because the song does kind of tell a story, but I love that you've put this queer spin on it. And I think
Yeah.
like I guess my one of my questions, the first one is, did it come about when you heard the song and it just kind of stuck in the back of your mind and you thought one day I'm gonna like turn this into a queer story? Or was it like the song just came on, more recently? I mean, like because I don't want to ask you how old you are, but you look like a baby.
Well, I was very much a child when Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy came on the radio, so I'll
Yeah,
say as much.
yeah.
But it's a really good question. I actually have a fun story behind how this story came to be. I was actually My partner and I had just finished a year-long stint of working at Walt Disney World in Orlando. So we were
Oh,
down there in the 2018, 2019. So back in the fall of 2019, we decided, along with one of our friends from Norway, who we had met on our program down in Disney World, that we were going to go on a 5-week road trip back home to BC. So we figured we're young, let's do this while we can.
yeah,
So we hit the road, and I have a very specific moment that I clearly remember. We were between like Las Vegas and Arizona, Nevada and Arizona, if you will, somewhere between there. And Skater Boy came on the radio, and something just like switched in my head. I was like, I was taken back to a time when I was a kid in my family's car, and I just remember listening to all of my favorite songs and changing the pronouns in my head so that I could kind of resonate with those lyrics.
yeah.
And so I was like, what a cool book that would be if I wrote about a punk skater boy and a ballerino and what that would look like. And so, of course, setting it in high school, in young adults, I can't have them be on stage and a baby on the way, like the lyrics
Right,
say.
right,
So
right,
I really did have to reinvent what that story looked like, and especially what that story looked like in 2024,
right,
25, whenever I
right.
was writing it. So that's kind of how it came to be. And and now we're 20 days away, and I'm terrified and excited.
You seem to have a really supportive publisher, though.
Oh, I do. Oh, yeah. My publisher, Soho Teen, has been so incredible right from the beginning. Like I was on submission with Skater Boy for about 2 years,
Okay.
shopping it around New York,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I knew it was going to be kind of a tough sell. Like my main character, he is angry. He's an angry little punk, and not a lot of stories tell stories with
right.
main characters like that front and center. And so I got a lot of rejection for many, many months until Soho Teen came around, and my editor Alexa just she inherently knew exactly what I was trying to get at with this
Oh,
story, and we took it apart and put it back together again, and it was just a beautiful partnership.
what a peace of mind, when
Yeah.
your publisher doesn't ask you to make changes that are so out of your realm,
Yeah.
that it really screws with your mind and what you had, you know, set in your mind. Because I ran into that on my first book, and I think it was because the publisher that I chose was very urban, and they were like, "Oh, I think we need some ethnic characters," and I was like, "Oh God, like I that's a big ask." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a white chick writing about a black queer experience. I don't have that in me, and I feel like I couldn't do it justice. So I tweaked as much as I could and feel comfortable with. But it felt like, just the wrong ask, out of everything,
Totally.
out of everything. That
So
was tough.
I have a question. In
Mhm.
writing this book and but inspired by the song, were there copyright issues with that? Was there anything about, I know you changed it, you had to change it. So what happens when someone does that? Was there any, does that happen with writing books
Yeah,
or?
yeah. I mean, you definitely have to be you have to pay a lot of attention to copyright legalities. I mean, even further to that, every chapter in my book has a chapter title, and those chapter titles are plays on early 2000 punk pop music lyrics, or at least song titles. And so with song titles specifically, those actually can't be copyrighted. So those are kind of free reign for everyone to use. Granted, Skater Boy is spelled like the correct way and
Yeah,
not the Avril
yeah.
way. But
Right.
yeah, you definitely have to be very conscious of what you're using in relation to the song. If it's specific lyrics within the body of the text, you have to be very careful with those too. But we were like I said, like this book doesn't really have anything to do with that song. It just was loosely inspired by it. So I got to have creative freedom in a lot of realms for that.
It's so great because I mean, it's so recognizable. You know what I mean? The minute you hear Skater Boy, you hear the song. You know what I mean? You go right to
Yeah,
the song. So that's amazing to me. And again, I did the same thing. Like I shot my book around so much that I just gave up on it. And I told my editor, like, you can do what you want with it, but I'm done. Like I'm done reading, rejection letters and stuff. Like, don't even
Yeah.
tell me. So
Yeah,
like,
it's hard.
yeah, like
It's
you were,
hard. The publishing industry is very difficult, and a lot of people they do give up because it can be so demoralizing. But
yeah,
I so believed in this story, and you're right. Like I have had so many people, even since the days of my cover reveal, when people see my book, they immediately think of the song, they start singing it. And I've had like Lynn Painter, a New York Times bestseller, messages me all the time and is like, damn you, like I saw a post about your book, I started singing the song, and to me,
yes,
I'm just like mission accomplished. I did what I had to do, and
right.
it's in your head because of it.
It's so good, and you're getting such good reviews. Like I read Rob's review. Is it yeah, Rob, right? Couch. Is that
Oh,
him?
Rob Couch, yes, yeah,
Yeah,
of course,
right.
yeah.
I saw his blurb, and it's so nice to have this momentum behind it. And really, it launches when? When's the actual launch date?
February 6th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's got this great build up and momentum behind it. And you are fortunate enough to be able to take it on tour.
I am, yeah. That was a total surprise to me.
Is it,
how did
is
that
it,
work?
go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, how does that work with the tour? Does your publisher put the tour together?
Yeah, so it can be a collection of things. Like the author can put money up front and go on their own tour. A publicist can back you in and pay for that. I was very fortunate enough in that my publisher did pay for my trip to all the stops that I'm going on, and they organized the bulk of it. But early on, when we had our first initial publicist meeting, they're like, "What do you want to do? What do you feel comfortable doing?" And I was like, "I have waited my entire life for this moment. You do whatever you need to. I will do it all."
So this
So that was really awesome.
this is your first book then, right?
This is my very first book. I mean,
Amazing.
it's the fourth book that I've written, but the first one that I got published.
Right. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you got to kiss a lot of frogs, you
You
know.
got to do a lot. And I queried to find an agent for about 10 years before I landed my agent with Skater Boy. So it was a very long journey, but I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything because I'm here now.
Yeah, I mean, what it's great, and it's in the young adult realm genre,
Yes.
which is really picking up steam now. And I try and like it's a chicken and the egg thing. Like, is it picking up steam because Netflix is plucking books and making series, or is it picking up steam because I think more young adults are craving those kinds of books. It's not Goosebumps anymore and the Babysitter's
Yeah.
Club, like they want young adult, books. So um it just seems like it's a really good market to hit. I mean, we've all been there. Everybody's, we've been young adults. Like we know of which we write. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
that's one of the things that I love is a person that writes what they know. So
Yeah.
you were saying that your main character is a little angry. Did that come from anywhere?
Yeah,
Did you?
I mean, like, I guess it had to have because people who know me are like, I didn't realize you were that angry. And I'm like, well, neither did I, but it came from somewhere.
It's just
But I think,
coming out.
yeah, but I think it's a very universal experience for queer kids, especially queer closeted kids in high school, to experience those feelings of anger at a world where you don't really fit in, in friend groups that you don't see yourself, or you see high school romances going on all around you and none of them are queer. And what does that mean for you when, like,
Yeah.
I've always been a hopeless romantic. So to see everyone around me finding someone and being the only one there that is left out, it does impact you whether you know it or not.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I 100%, yeah, I definitely believe you could tap right into that. I
Yeah.
mean, you feel so misunderstood, and yet there's so few people that you can talk about it with,
Yeah.
and you're just stuck with it. You're stuck with those feelings you don't even know what to do with. So yeah, I would imagine definitely like because Jay and I are both late bloomers. We followed the herd and got married to
Right.
men,
Right.
and in
Yeah.
marriages, and then it dawned on us like way late in life. But I think,
Much later.
yeah,
Much.
but you know what? I'm so okay with that. Like my childhood and my high school experience, I loved it. I wouldn't change it for the world. Um, and when I moved, I was in upstate New York near the Canadian border on,
Nice.
I grew up in Niagara Falls, but on the New York side, and there was
Awesome.
nothing up there that was relatable at the time. But my mother opened a restaurant in Florida, so I moved to Florida right after graduation, and that was like a huge adult playground. And it was, got to explore all kinds of things and still went with the herd. Still went with the herd even after that. But yeah, I think everybody has, some pent up teen angst somewhere that they can tap into, at any given time. Your tour,
Yeah.
are they queer bookshops too, or mainstream?
Uh, that's a good question. I think they are mainstream for the most part. We have a few indie bookstores mixed into the blend. I know my LA stop, where I'm speaking with Adam Sass, the author of Your Lonely Nights Are Over. That's going to be at the Rip Bodice, which is a indie bookstore that exclusively only handles like romance books. So that's going to be really, really cool, like niche market to go into.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm doing my pre-order campaign with a few indie bookstores locally on this side of the border and on the other side, just so I can get that mix as well, because I think indie bookstores are our lifeline, especially for queer bookstores. So
Oh God, yes. We
Yeah.
had one of the oldest, most celebrated gay bookstores called Gay's the Word
I
in,
love it. I went
in
there in
London.
April of last year.
Oh God. It's like
Yeah.
if you're in London, you just have to go. You just have to
You
find it.
have to
You
make
have
the
to go.
trip.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
worth it. And the staff, the people, they're so they were so helpful when I was getting started with tips of going in the right direction,
Yeah.
with publishing and all that kind of stuff. Um, and on our audio stream, I had an author named Claire Lydon who writes a lot of lesbian fiction, and she was so revered, and I went to a an author speaking thing, a reading, and I met her, and she has this really great voice. And I was like, Claire, can you do a podcast? And she was like, oh, I don't know anything about podcasting. I'm like, I'll teach you. I'll teach you. It was like, and we set it up, and she learned so quick and was so good at it and had such a great following. So she did it for like 5 years. And it was such a great working relationship because those last like 2 years, she was sending me like completely edited. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to throw it up on the stream, like it was so, she adapted so well, just going from author to podcaster. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's still doing one with another author. But I think authors are inquisitive by nature. Like if you meet another author, there's so many things you want to ask them, like, what's your process? Where do you work? How many words a
Yeah.
day do you do? It's just so it was great because that's what she was doing, was interviewing other authors. And the chemistry, no matter who it was, the chemistry was always like right there. And I do think it's like this unspoken author connection, that you get. So I would imagine you will end up making so many friends on this tour, and being able to relate to them so easily now. Because I'll
Yeah.
just go ahead and ask, what was your process? Did you like block out time during the day? Did you just write when
Yeah,
you
I was
feel like
gonna ask
it?
that. My questions, yes.
I nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, for Skater Boy specifically, right when I got home from our road trip back from Orlando, uh, my partner and I, we had a plan. We had worked at Disney for a year. We were set on finding a place to buy, so we needed to get a mortgage, and in Vancouver, that's a very expensive and terrible thing to do. So we were right off the bat going to look for jobs. But when I started ideating this story in the car on the way home, I was like, I know we need to get jobs, but I have to write this story first. I need to set aside time because I feel like this is going to be the one that gets me a book deal. And so when I came home, I sat at the computer from 9 to 5. Like I treated it like a full-time job, and I was able to pump this out in 2 months, in pretty much 2 months, and
Oh, fantastic.
which was awesome. And I mean, like we moved in with my parents so that we could afford to do this, but I was so thankful for that time because I just got to write down exactly what ended up being, for the most part, like the skeleton of what still remains to be the story. So it was very awesome that I was able to experience that and be like, oh, like I'm a full-time writer, even though I'm not getting paid.
Right, right. But that's one of the things, I think, Jay, you and I talked about this a lot. Like, I'm one of those people that can't have um it's so terrible. Can't have something that I need to do before or something that I need to do after.
Oh
Right,
yeah.
I need to
Mhm.
really have no interruptions. And
right.
I mean, just having to stop and feed the cat, I'm like, no, like, and I'm here by myself like all day. My wife goes to work, earns the bread and butter, and I'm, plugging away. But like, if I have laundry to do, that's not a writing day. If I
Yeah.
Right.
planning to cook like some massive meal or something, it's not a writing day. Like, I really need the schedule, like the to be absolutely clear so I can stay focused. Even when the doorbell rings and it's like the Amazon delivery guy, I'm like, leave it, I don't even want to get up. But yeah, when you're in the zone, um, it's like a sweet spot, it's
Yeah.
like the magic. And if you are fortunate enough to be able to, like you said, have the day free to do that, as and get it all out, especially if you have it all in your mind, because it's like it can't come out fast enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I work a full-time job. My hours are 9 to 6 p.m. So editing this book was a real challenge because I would be working on my work computer over here, and then the minute lunch happened, I'd turn that laptop off and I'd turn my personal one on. And
Work on
once
the
6 o'clock hit, I would write all the way till like midnight. Like it was
Yeah.
exhausting. I've said this on social media often, like how the heck do people do this with having full-time jobs? Because
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
It really
Yeah.
is. It's absolutely brutal,
Same
especially
thing
the
Mhm.
edits,
with
because
writing music and playing the gigs. It's the same thing.
oh
Well,
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
goes
Yeah.
through too.
Creative jobs, like if the finance isn't there, like it's a challenging thing to do. So I commend anyone who puts the time and effort into doing their creative process because it takes a toll.
So
What was the
disappointing.
process? Do you have to have an agent first and then the publisher, or can you get a publisher without an agent?
Yeah,
I had
so
I
so
had a publisher
so
without
for
an agent. Yeah.
So yeah, it can vary for a lot of different things. With the traditionally published route that I took, that I had to have a polished manuscript before finding an agent, and then once I had the agent, that agent then shopped it around to publishing houses. So the people like to say that the publishing industry, like nothing happens, and then everything happens all at once because it's such a slow moving industry. So they really want you to have like a manuscript that is as polished as possible in order to get it out there. So
Was
Did
your
you have?
editor from them? Oh, sorry. Was your editor from your publishing company, or was it someone you knew separate?
no, yeah. So the editor was in-house in at
Okay.
Soho Team. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to ask, did you go through a lot of, you need to change this, we like this, but you need to fix this, or, did you go through a lot of that, or did they like it as you wrote it out of the chute?
Your
Yeah.
note.
So
Were your notes
I
expensive?
yeah, I am like a chronic underwriter. So I think my story was at like 68,000 words at the time that Soho Team bought it. And I received an editorial letter from my editor, which laid out what I needed to change and what I needed to think on. And they were everything that my editor Alexa sent me was things I wholeheartedly agreed with. Because like I said, I was on submission for 2 years. So I had 2 years to think about what I wanted to change myself. And for the most part, everything aligned with exactly what my editor wanted. So I buckled down in December of 2022 and I just pumped out another like 30,000 words, removed like 30,000 words, and it ended up around 83,000 words at the end of it. But yeah, it was a lot of just tinkering. For the most part, like I said, the skeleton of my story has remained the same from the moment I wrote it back in 2019. But what we did a lot with this round of revisions was really dive into my character's motivations and his backstory to explain why he did the things he did, why he thought the things he did. And I think it ended up working beautifully because we really got to explore like the psyche of Wes, my main character.
Well, that's really cool. Like I remember um my editor is British, and what I didn't know at the time was that they don't like contractions. Like
Mm,
they would prefer do not as opposed to don't,
Oh,
cannot as opposed to can't.
yeah,
So a lot
yeah.
of my edits were super, super fiddly. And finally,
mm,
I just said, I feel like I'm losing my voice. Like I'm not British and you're not American. So we're going to have to compromise on some of this or because it's becoming way too nitpicky,
yeah.
for that kind of thing. So we came to a great agreement on that. And then I had a second editor from the publishing house that published it, which was the one that wanted more ethnicity, more sex, more this, more that. And it was like a little bit taken aback because I'm like, this has already gone through like a massive edit, you know what I mean? But the things that you're asking me to change, are things I'm not quite sure of. And the same thing happened with when it came time for the cover. Like I submitted all this art that I had in mind for the cover, and they were like, here's the three things you can choose from. And I was
Wow.
like, oh man. each one was worse than the next, you know. It was like,
Oh,
oh God. And I feel like that was yeah, that was the downfall. That was what, but you know, the thing of it was is that you're so excited when you get that offer that, you know, it's just like, where do I sign? Where do I sign?
yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully, like my wife's super level-headed. And she was like, have a meeting, put it on a conference call, let me listen, and I
Yeah.
will write down things for you to ask, you know. So that was kind of how we went about it. But by the time we finished that phone call, I had a 3 book deal
Wow.
with a deadline. And that like really scared me until I got my first round of notes back that said, we need to split this into 2 books. And I'm like, well, there's 2 books down.
There you go.
It's gonna be easy. And then I just expanded a short story that I already had on file. So I completed my 3 book deal like 6 months into the year that I had to do it, you know.
Amazing.
Um, but yeah, it was, you know, I think if you're fortunate enough to find an agent, an editor, and a publishing house, you know, working together on your behalf that you're comfortable with and you love everything about them, you will stick with them, you know, and good things will come. But for me, like my experiences was I will never work with these people again. I'm glad my deal is over, you know.
Mm.
But I also think that there's a lot more choice out there now that wasn't. I mean, I'm getting emails, just random emails from publishers that just seem so much more. Oh, I mean, I don't have anything, you know, on the stove, so to speak, but you know I can see that there is a lot more choice out there, and I think because I was just so eager to get it out that I just went ahead and did jump through every hoop they wanted me to. But yeah, that's one of those lessons that you learn early on. Like I'm so happy for you that your experience is great, you know, with this publishing house that you have, because there are a lot out there that and sometimes I think if you get the wrong editor, you know, like I love my British editor. I love her. She will always be my editor. But the one that came with the publishing company, I was just like, eesh, like this is yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss, and you don't really
yeah,
know what you're gonna get, right? Like even in talking about the cover, my publisher asked me what I thought, and being the A type personality that I am, I sent like a Google folder with colors I loved, fonts I loved,
yes,
and album art references that I really spoke to me, and they must have gotten so sick of me by the end of that because I was so nitpicky, but they welcomed everything that I mentioned, and like my cover ended up being like exactly what I asked for, which is
fantastic.
unheard of because I know some debuts who just got their cover in their inbox and it was like, here you go, with
Yeah,
no say, and that's a
yes.
nightmare experience
Honest,
for
like I
me.
said, one was worse than the next, and it was only 3. But man, they shut that shit down hard.
Yeah.
I was ready with all kinds of stuff to send to them. They're like, nope, here's your
Yeah.
3.
Wow.
Oh man, this sucks. Yeah, it was really bad. And none of the
So
book covers had anything to do with the stories. None. It was so misleading. It's awful. It was awful.
how does that work in the book world with, because I only know from the music world, writing world, the publisher pays for the print of the book. I mean, I know you said they paid for the tour, but do they pay for the printing of the book and the advertising to get to promote it? Or how does that, do you get paid like ahead of time to write? I know there were probably different deals, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It can
Yeah.
definitely differ for everyone, but usually when you're traditionally published, you get an advance for your book, and then the publishing house usually has like a marketing department that is dedicated to the advertising, the publicity of it all. And then Soho Teen is actually has a partner distribution agreement with Penguin Random House. So Penguin Random House is the one that will distribute all of the copies of the book to indie stores, to bookstores all across North America.
That's
oh,
fantastic. Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, most people that, especially ones that go down the self-publishing route,
Yeah.
yeah,
like I am floored by the amount of work that goes into that. That was
Yeah.
oh
one of
yeah,
the things about like Claire Lydon was that she had a very specific artist that she worked with that does all her covers, and each one has the same couple of girls, and it's almost like her own customized cartoons, and they're so perfect. And she also uh, did her own audio, like for audiobooks.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like that kind of thing always amazes me too, because you think like that's going to be so easy, and it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
so not, it is so not. But you also
Yeah.
do have to have an actual director, that is telling you like that maybe that's the wrong inflection, or can you try it this way, or you know, was there a stutter in there? I think, like that, that they really want some serious perfection. Um, but that's all like in the next phase for you. You don't worry about
Yeah, right.
that. Yeah, but you'll end up doing that. But it's just to me, it's an exciting time. Like when you've got that book that's ready to go, and you get that, like you have your first, you get that first one, and it's like
Yeah.
I didn't even get that. I had to buy my own.
Oh, yeah,
Unbelievable.
I've got right up behind me all my copies here, and I'm like, what the heck do I do with all these copies?
Yeah. You send them to people with that you want their honest opinion. It's
Yeah, right.
yeah. But that's the great part is I love that you have all these testimonials already, nice little blurbs already. Um that's like rocket fuel. Yeah, it's just rocket fuel. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
who sent those out? Like, how did they get? Did they get
That
advanced
yet.
copies?
I was just going to
yes.
ask that. How do you get that?
How do I
Like,
get the testimonials?
yeah,
Yeah, like is it released pre-release or online or something?
Yeah, so because I have been in this publishing world adjacent anyway for the past like 12 years at this point, I've managed to make a lot of friends over the years, and some of those friends go on to become New York Times bestsellers, and some become very distinguished awarded authors. And so for the most part, I just asked them if they wanted to read it. And so at the stage of like copy editing where we are, me and my editor and our copy editor are going through line by line, making sure everything is okay. That's usually the time where the publisher will send like ebooks or ARCs, advanced reader copies out, so that you can get that early buzz going before your book hits the bookshelf. So we
yeah,
were able to. I was fortunate enough that I was able to land quite a few of my friends who agreed to read it early on and provide these blurbs that I've just been releasing every week leading up to my release on social media, just to create some buzz
yeah.
before it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite, fa one of your most favorite authors?
Oh, that's a great question. When it comes to young adult, I would definitely say Becky Albertalli. Becky Albertalli is huge in the young adult world, and she's such an inspiration to so many of us. And she's really one of the main reasons why there are so many queer books in the young adult sphere in this day and age, because her book Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda really put queer romance on the map. And so the fact that she is the cover blurb on my book is just like a dream come true for me.
That is
Um,
nice.
yeah, and then in the adult space, I would hands down probably say Mitch Albom and Matt Haig. So Mitch Albom wrote like Tuesdays with Morrie. It's the biggest
Yes.
book to his name, and Matt Haig, of course, wrote The Midnight Library. So those two are very very influential for me.
So you have been always been a reader your whole life, you know?
Yeah, not really, actually, which is kind of surprising. I would say I really started reading in like grade 6 or 7. Like I don't really have many memories reading as a child, but
Me neither. Me
yeah, it's
neither.
very strange because I always like loved writing stories, but
Right.
without reading them, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but I got hooked on these two authors when I was in elementary school, who wrote like the origin story of Peter Pan, and then later wrote a series about kids who work in the Disney parks as like holograms, and like wake up when they go to sleep, they like wake up as their holograms in the parks and like have to fight Disney
Oh,
villains. And I just became obsessed with these books, and I think that's honestly why I'm writing today.
oh my God. I have to say this is so funny that you were talking about working at Disney. My cousin did an internship at Disney last year, then got hired, and
Awesome.
he starred as Peter Pan in the Christmas Day parade,
Oh, that's
national
awesome.
TV. He was
That is so cool.
right, like so. Yeah, he is loving working for Disney.
Is
And
that the actor? Is that your cousin, the actor?
no, 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 no. He went into real estate. No, this one's actually way younger. I think he's just 21 or 22, but he's been an amazing guitar player and singer. Like he was singing at local places when he was like 16. He starred in Rock of Ages at
Awesome.
all these different theaters in Buffalo and Niagara Falls. So yeah, he's always had it in him. But yeah, amazing, like national television, like good grief, man. Like
Yeah,
what's happening here? But yeah, it's a great launch pad, for talent. It's fantastic.
it is. Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually I currently work for Disney. So my program that I did down in Florida actually afforded me the opportunity to apply for the role that I'm currently in. So I actually work for Industrial Light and Magic, the visual effects company behind Lucasfilm. So
yeah.
I help hire all the visual effects artists for like Star Wars movies and episodic TV shows and everything under the gamut of that.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's very cool to still be in the Disney family.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
watching all those behind the scenes about the animation things and the
Yeah.
park rides, and that goes all the way back to the 70s up until current. Like
Hmm.
binging on those. I think they're on Disney. But yeah, it's what an incredible creative day job to have that will keep you creative for writing. You know what I mean? Like it's just hand
Yeah.
in hand. Yeah.
It's very cool to be surrounded by these people who are like took part in some of the most iconic movies of our time. Like it's just a very strange, like I'm not creative in that regard in any sense of the word. So it's very cool to be surrounded by that all the time.
It's unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about that, like your support system. So
Mhm.
you've been married for how long?
No, I've been with my fiance. We're actually getting married this July this year, but we've been together for about 12 years now.
Oh, fantastic. So obviously,
So I'm a
but
lot older than you think I am.
I think so. But but we won't go there. You so he's very supportive then of your writing career.
Oh, very much so. Yes, yes. When we first met, I had actually just finished my very first book that I had ever written, and an agent in New York was interested in reading it. And I'm so sorry to that agent for sending them that book because it was just awful. But he was very supportive right from the get-go, and has been there. And with Skater Boy, I would finish a chapter while I was editing with my editor, and I would go and read it out loud to him. So he was right there from the very first page.
Yeah, my wife's like that too. Whenever we have to do a car journey, I would read her chapters off my phone in the car
Yeah.
while she was driving. So yeah, it's really important, and your family seems great about it too.
Oh yeah, my family is wonderful. They don't understand how I do it, but they're very supportive.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, listen, go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, I found with songwriting, like we always, with the people in the songwriting community, like original artists, we think it's so funny because people will say, "Oh, I want to hear what you're working on. What's your new song?" Or you'll say, "Listen to my song and let me know what you think." And like 30 seconds into it, they're talking to you. And it's like, you just stop and listen to the lyrics for 3 minutes. Could I have 3 minutes of your time? So
That's
like for
so
Jana to be listening to chapters is great because
Yeah.
I just find it hard to get someone to stop and just listen to 3 minutes of a song without starting it. Oh, you want to go for fries? You're going to drive through McDonald's. And I'm like, could you listen to this 3 minutes and just figure that out later?
I never even thought about that. Yeah, I can.
Well, honestly, even reading out loud your chapters, like by the second or third chapter, I've lost my voice completely, and I'm like, I guess we have to wait until tomorrow night. Like it's an ordeal to do that.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
It's funny too because I don't know about you, but I found that when I was reading is when I would find things like I would make little mental notes of what I wanted to go back and change.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, helpful. It's helpful, but yeah, God bless them for sticking in it. It's so
Yeah,
true.
totally.
Listen, we're gonna let you go because I know you were doing this on a lunch break. So we
The
will.
life of a writer.
I know. So just remind us again of the date of the book launch.
Yeah, so the Skater Boy hits bookshelves February 6th this year.
February 6th. And do you know where your first stop on the tour is?
Yes, my first stop is actually going to be in Langley, BC, which is just my hometown where all my friends and family will get to come to the event.
Oh, how
Yeah.
fun.
Cool.
And
Yeah, super special.
is there a website where people can check it out, maybe even order the book or know where you're going to be?
Yeah, definitely. Anyone can go to my website at anthonynerada.com. They can also check out Soho Teen, or Penguin Random House has all the links for their geocache. So wherever you log on and you check, we'll show you stores and indie stores around you that you can purchase it from.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, get back to work.
Thank you so much, you two. This was such a fun lunch break that I got to partake in. So thank you for the invite.
It'll be up this weekend, and I will shoot out the links on Threads.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care, my friend. Good to meet you.
All right, you too. Take care. Nice to meet you.
Why do you always run?
Like, never stop chasing your dreams.
We drank way too much whiskey.
Yeah, see? See?
My addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. You look at me and in my eyes you see the hurt I can't disguise. I want you. And though it seems I look right through, I'm noticing your every move. She's got you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. I turn away to mask the pain, but jealousy reveals my rage and madness. And knowing you can read my mind consumes me in a shameful kind of sadness. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. You are my drug, my every waking need. I got you in my blood. You've got me on my knees. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I